Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So in this one we're going to be looking at the trial system, more specifically the throw snowballs at Bastions trial. That is definitely a tongue twister as this is multiple attempts in terms of introduction for this one, but hope you enjoy it. Of course, we did already have the throw snowballs at the Rocketeers last week. I managed to score over 40k points there as a solo player predominantly. Of course, the same applies to this one. It's a solo run. So if your duo, trio preference, then absolutely take this score as the foundation that you could double, maybe triple, even more potentially if you get the strategy right. So what we're going to do, we're going to be diving into the cold snap map. Of course, before we do that, there's some prerequisite requirements that we must talk about. First and foremost, you need to go onto a cold snap event, but your aim in this particular run is not to engage the Bastions just yet. The first thing you want to do is you want to fill out your inventory as much as possible with snowballs. So how do we do this? We simply take a looting Mark II. We run a minimal setup, maybe one gun, one stack of ammo, one or two quick use items depending on your preferences, whether that's adrenaline shots, shield recharges, bandages, etc. And then effectively you want to maximize the amount of slots that are available for snowballs to be put in. So quick use, safe pocket, and of course all of your backpack slots. Once you've maximized and absolutely stacked yourself full, as you'll see in this screenshot here, then of course it's time to engage in the real event, which is another cold snap event. And this is where we will hunt the Bastion for the snowballs. So my loadout specifically was Anvil 2, Patina 2 with 3 stacks of ammunition. I could have reduced that for sure because my main aim was definitely to isolate and immobilize the Bastion. So I thought that was going to be the best strategy to begin with. But as you'll see in the video, that doesn't quite play out. So let's roll the clips. So of course another caveat to this guide is of course we need to make sure that we spawn into a 29-minute fresh raid. Now the map doesn't necessarily matter, Bastions spawn on every map, but I definitely think that Spaceport or Buried City would work most. As you can see, I do spawn in a fresh raid, 29-minute mark, and of course I know that Bastions tend to spawn in the underground area by checkpoints. So on this particular map, that's where I go. This is actually quite handy as a map as well, by the way, here, because of course we can stay out of the cold, as you'll see later on in the footage. Of course, if you have some indoor small area, whether that's large, big, that can stop the cold and the frostbite effect from happening during this map condition, that's going to be your optimal strategy. So I choose to go into the checkpoint area. Of course, we're running there now, and yeah, let's continue rolling the clip and see how we get on. So as we approach the outer gates and going into the underground area, of course it's worth bearing in mind that this is 2 minutes now into the raid and I haven't thrown one snowball yet. So again, if you get lucky with spawns of the Bastions, you get a good spawn location. Again, whether you're solo, trio, duo, it doesn't really matter. But ultimately we're looking for a good spawn, and you could almost argue that it's optimal to go and fish for a specific spawn. So maybe even exiting the raid completely if you don't get a good spawn location would be more beneficial than trying to refarm up all the snowballs again, trying to get a good score and, you know, being 5 minutes, 6 minutes into the raid. So 2 minutes in, unfortunately I still haven't thrown a snowball. There is a lot of arc for me to deal with here, which I didn't really consider when I first tried this. Of course, there's fireballs, there's pops, there's wasps, there's hornets, there's even a sentinel that we have to deal with later on in the clip. But let's fast forward over to the point where we start to engage the Bastion with the snowballs. Okay, so you'll see here I'm taking out the sentinel as this was becoming very, very frustrating to deal with as I was trying to engage the Bastion. So decided from long range to just take this out with the anvil. Did almost get shot a couple of times here, but eventually we take it out, and of course it makes our life a little bit easier. So we've got the Bastion here in this position. Maybe it's not the best position, but for sure we can leverage the environment here to our advantage. We've of course got the armoured truck here. We've also got this kind of concrete barrier that we can kite around. We've even got these pillars in front of us as well, right, that we can leverage. So as you can see, I'm taking a few pop shots with the snowballs. Once, of course, the Bastion has finished firing, it does smoke for a little bit, which is kind of our opportunity to throw the snowballs, as you can see here. So it starts to smoke. You see that I unleashed the snowballs, and we've already one-starred the trial at this point by throwing just a few snowballs. Again, we're leveraging the smoking time frame. I think you can get about 3 or 4 snowballs off in quick succession when he's doing this. But this is effectively the strategy that I use. So rather than destroying the legs, I did opt to simply just weave in and out. Again, you can see that I've already 2-starred. and we can freestyle this quite comfortably. So it only takes 16 snowballs to do that. It's 250 points per snowball. I do miss a few, unfortunately, later on, but this is effectively how I got the points to begin with. Is we play a little bit of a game. We do take some shots there as I mistimed the peak. There are some players as well that actually join us in the trial, just I think freestyling it, not trying to do the maximum amount of points like I was on this occasion, but we do get some assistance, and that does actually help us a little bit because the aggro does swap from one player to another. But again, this is the strategy that I followed, and you can already see now that he has started to target somebody else, and that becomes our window of opportunity to throw as many snowballs as we can. So I did think that I might be able to get on top of the truck here if, of course, he aggroed that person for longer. He does here, which you can see he's almost unloading a full clip, so that allows us to throw 3 or 4 more onto the side of it. So this is kind of rinse and repeat. This is the strategy, just weaving in and out of the vision of the Bastion, allowing its clip to run dry, and then throwing the snowballs once the smoking animation begins or he's firing at somebody else. So let's jump forward now to the next step of the guide. So at this point then we're at 16 minutes into the raid. So we've been throwing snowballs at the Bastion for around 10 minutes so far. We now come outside into the checkpoint area where I know that there is a couple of snow piles and one specifically close to some cover, which is very important because as we collect more snowballs, we of course know that we're going to be exposed outside and the frostbite mechanic kicks in. So we need to be close by to some kind of protection here, which is why I chose this pile specifically. This is also the same pile that I used for the Rocketeer snowball as well. So again, at this point in terms of RNG, we're really hoping that the Bastion remains alive. But you'll see once we collect, I think it's around 50-55 snowballs, what happens. So with just under 8 minutes on the clock, I decide that enough's enough. I'm done collecting and I decide to make my way back inside the outer gates or the checkpoint area to the Bastion again. So there's a Rocketeer that's engaged to the left of me here, so I'm super cautious and making sure that I don't get hit by this and don't aggro this, so I'm trying to stay close to the wall and head over back to the Bastion. Now what's interesting here is in the right hand side of my headphones I can clearly hear a Bastion walking, but I don't realise that actually that is a completely different spawn. As we head over here, it becomes more and more obvious to me that the Bastion is no longer alive, right? So I start popping some of the floor arc. We get a pop there, there's a fireball, and of course you can see the Bastion's body in the background here, but I don't notice it. I carry on. I still maintain my mission here in terms of killing arc because I don't want them to be anywhere near while I'm finishing off the trial. So again, I decide to do this, and then of course I see in front of me the Bastion's body. So I know at this point, okay, we've got 6 minutes left, or just over in fact, and of course the aim is still on. We still need to try to find a Bastion, and I can hear in my left hand side of my headphones now that there is actually a Bastion outdoors. So we're going to finish off the arc here, nearly get stung by a hornet here. We're going to head back outside and we're going to look for that second Bastion. So as we head outside, we can definitely hear this strong Bastion walking sound effect now on the left hand side of my headphones. So of course I'm now destroying the arc in the area once again. I'm not doing a very good job of it at the moment, but you get the idea, right? We're trying to clear the area. We're trying to reduce the threats that are available to us here. And of course we see a hornet again, and time's ticking at this point. So again, this is why I don't think this is the optimal run. I could definitely do better if I had a little bit more luck with spawns and of course the Bastion inside checkpoint not being destroyed. So I see it, I turn around and realise, okay, I could probably kite it a little bit specifically, but I'd end up throwing a snowball, hitting a tree and thinking this is not a good spot. So looking around, I see, okay, I need some cover as well because of course we have the frostbite mechanic as well. We've got 5 minutes left and the snowballs are still in my inventory, right? So I want to try to maximise as much as possible with this trial, and now we start playing a little bit risky and maybe something could be a lot more optimal here, but again, you get the idea. We're lucky with the second spawn already, but I see, look, containers on the right hand side. We're going to have to deal with frostbite, but let's try and get as many in as possible in terms of throws. So you can see actually here what I'm doing is kiting it backwards and not allowing the shooting animation to begin. So I'm not giving it a clear vision of where I am. Restocking my quick use. Some of this is a little bit intense in terms of the time. You've then got to manage the snowballs as well, which is probably why it will be a lot easier in duos and trios, because you can juggle the aggravation or the aggro of the arc. You can see there I missed a snowball through his legs. He has, of course, engaged, though, with his shooting now. And then I decide to go, okay, let's look for the height in terms of the, you know, almost like basketball shots. He's moving very, very slowly. And, of course, the frostbite kicks in as well. So I decide, look, I can't really contend with frostbite and the timing and the snowballs and the health management as well. So we nearly actually go down here. So it was a very risky move to do this, but we managed to get cover regardless. So we're filling up our shield. We're healing. We've still got 3.5 minutes left, and of course we have about 40 or so snowballs. Some of them missed from the attempts that I made, and it is started to de-aggro now and walk away. So I'm kind of waiting here for the frostbite to drop off a little bit, looking for an angle, looking for what possibilities I have, and decide to go through the window here and see if I can engage from a distance. So we start throwing. I'm not sure this hits. I think the second one maybe does. We see now that there's a wasp above us. There's a rocketeer as well that I think aggravates here. And it's just, again, it's too risky of a position. So I decide to back off and once again recoup a little bit. So we get rid of the frostbite mechanic. I decide to top up the bandage to full. We know that we're going to be spending as much time outdoors now as possible until the final minutes, or the final seconds, should I say, of the raid. So we're trying to be as optimal as possible with our time. We decide to engage once again with the arc in the air. We destroy that wasp. And again, with such short amount of time on the clock, you have to really make quite crucial decisions here. And this is why, again, part of the strategy is to always have a plan. I've, of course, brought a raider hatch key with me. We know that raider hatches are open in the cold snap event. Again, I try these, you know, super long basketball type throws. We get a few in. He hasn't aggroed me. He can't see me for some reason here, which is great. So I try to then strategically position myself where he can't see me. I then think, okay, I can get on top of these containers, try from a slightly different angle. But again, I'm contending with frostbite and other arc enemies. So I hear the rocketeer behind me. We now, of course, have this hornet that's engaged. So we pop out the thrusters and we decide, okay, we're really running on thin ice at this point. We've got 2 minutes remaining and the hatch is around about 100 meters away from this location. So now we opt to again, once again, weave in and out behind some of the vehicles here and some of the containers. And again, very similar to the first half of the video here. We do take some damage, unfortunately, at this point. Very similar to the first half of the video. I'm trying to keep out of line of sight and, of course, then topping up my snowballs in my inventory. Mess up a little bit there, and I keep 2 instead of this fresh stack of 5. Again, it is tricky to keep count on how many snowballs you have. You're trying to juggle how much time is left, your positioning. Unfortunately, miss a snowball there. But again, you get the picture. You know, I'm clearly getting nervous here as well. I'm failing on moving the snowballs to the quick view slots. And here at this point, I hear a lure grenade coming in, and I think to myself, that's it, I'm done. There's a minute remaining, and I got a little bit nervous because, of course, that signifies that there's another raider on the map still with me. Maybe they wanted to help at that point, I don't know. But I didn't want to take the gamble. Of course, as you see, I do run up to about 50-meter mark, and I do hear in the background the gentleman say, you know, again, effectively, I understand at this point that he's friendly, and you can see here, this is how I scored the 27,200 points. So I'm just communicating to him here. We've got enough time, don't worry. I could have probably pushed even further to push maybe for a 28,000. And of course, there we go, 24 seconds remaining on the clock. Let him go through the hatch first, and we escape with 20 seconds remaining. So that's the breakdown of the video. Let's return to Speranza and close the video. So we still had 11 snowballs left after deciding to, of course, gather more snowballs while we were in the map condition. We did manage to pick up a blueprint here for the reward, which is nice. So we got a stable stock 3 blueprint, which is actually a blueprint that I need. And of course, you see here the final score then, 27,200. But all things considered, as my first attempt on this particular trial with some strategy in mind, but maybe not the most optimal, this should give you a very solid foundation on not only how to score a very similar score to me with, I would say, a relatively low risk of entry and barrier to entry, but of course it can also help you for any future duos runs, trios runs. Again, I think if there was 3 of you and one person was constantly distracting, one person throws lure grenades, and maybe some of you bring showstoppers. I mean, there's probably numerous ways to execute this in terms of strategy, but again, the whole idea of this is to bring you a foundation so you can either improve on it, work on it, but absolutely this is more than capable to be done on a solo journey. So thank you very much for watching and tuning in again to the video, guys. Remember to smash that like button if you did enjoy the content and you found it useful. Please add some comments as well, as I do try to reply to all of the comments, and of course it helps this channel grow even more. And finally, my last request is to, of course, subscribe to the channel for future Ark Raiders content, especially if you enjoyed this one. I put out more and more guides every week for trials specifically, as well as covering news, patch notes, other breakdowns and guides. So please consider subscribing, turning that notification bell on for all future Ark Raiders content on the channel. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.